While we sit and talk here, a man by the name of Leonard Peltier, who is an indigenous person, what they call an American Indian, sits in jail for 17 years. For 17 years. Martin Luther King's people came here as slaves, yet he was going to jail for his rights. So one thing you must know about the people, they will struggle for justice forever. Nothing will stop them. And when you want to know history, then you must look at the people's movements for justice. This is what history is. And we say that the people must make history because human beings have an instinct to make progress. It's instinctive. It's instinctive. Frederick Douglass said, where there is no struggle, there is no progress. So you must understand the two are inextricably linked. If you are a biology student and you come to your class and you do not struggle with the concepts of biology, you will never learn biology, not through osmosis. The only way you will learn it is through struggle with the concepts. And the more you struggle with the concepts, the better you become in biology. And the student who struggles with the most difficult concepts of biology is the best student. The logic is clear. The more you struggle, the stronger you get in every area. But a conscious human being does not run away from struggle, but runs to struggle. So the people who are instinctively strugglers, the conscious element of the people run to struggle, not away from struggle. Thus history is made in struggle, either consciously or unconsciously. You must not think that because somebody's in struggle, they know what they're fighting for. Not at all. Not at all. Many young men in this country went to fight in Vietnam, and today they didn't know why they went to fight. But they fought hard. Many went to Baghdad, and I know they didn't know because, listen, they didn't know what Kuwait was. They didn't know what Iraq was. They didn't know how long they were together. They didn't know when they were separated. They didn't know who separated them. They didn't know why they were separated, for what purposes they were separated. They knew none of these factors. As a matter of fact, most people who go to fight wars in America know nothing about the wars in which they're fighting. This is a fact. This is a fact. Those who went to Grenada, they didn't even know where it was. The fact can be easily seen because the people in America know more about Dallas and Dynasty than they do about Grenada, Panama, Beirut, or where they die. Here's the fact. So you see the struggle we have when we just talk about history. So we want to clear it up for you. History is made only by the people, not by the great. Listen, if one man could free the people and make history, I'd have done it a long time ago. Only the people make history. Now, in the history of a people who are oppressed, you must see carefully. All societies have a tendency to go from smaller social aggregates to larger social aggregates, from the family to the clan, to the tribe, to the nation, to the continent. This is an evolutionary process. All societies have it innately. Africa has this. Africa wants to go from family to continent. And this is an evolutionary process. Africa was involved in this evolutionary process, but it was brutally interrupted by European imperialism in the form of slavery and colonialism. 300 million of African young and African strong were taken out of Africa and used for purposes other than building Africa or uniting Africa. At the same time, colonialism came to divide Africa. I mean, the French took a part, the British took a part, the Italians took a part, the Portuguese took a part, everybody in Western Europe took a part except the Irish. That's why we have the best relationships with the Irish if we properly understand history. Every nation in Western Europe oppressed Africa except Ireland. And the only reason Ireland didn't oppress Africa was because she was involved with a fight with Britain. And since Britain oppresses Africans, it makes sense for Africans to join hands with the Irish and fight Britain. You see, if you don't know your history, you'll be making the wrong set of history. I went to England in 1967, and I saw Africans in the British Army who were going to fight in Ireland. But history is important. It's important. But we were saying Africa was developing this evolutionary process itself. Even Europe, you know, is speaking of continental unity. So you can see this evolutionary process. But Africa's process was interrupted. Now, Since the evolutionary process was interrupted, one must not think that the people in Africa have forgotten about Africa or the need for African unity. Not at all. We tell you, after all American imperialism have done to the native people in this country, they're still fighting. This Africa, which was her evolutionary path was interrupted, she still feels unity, and she will have unity. But since the evolutionary path to unity, to unification, was interrupted, the only way Africa can arrive at unity is through revolution. So you must understand, the call for revolution is not the call of the wild. It is a scientifically, historically determined call. Our movement to unity has been interrupted. This is an evolutionary movement. All people seek it. It has been interrupted in an evolutionary process. So consequently, this evolutionary process can no longer keep us unified. As a matter of fact, if you continue to try evolutionary process, you're helping the enemy. It is only a revolutionary process that will now come to unify Africa. Now you must understand one thing about making history. Everything affects everything. Everything affects everything. So Africans, and let's understand it properly now, Africans everywhere in the world have a responsibility to Africa. As a matter of fact, the slogan, which has been said for centuries, is a correct slogan. Until Africa is free, no African anywhere in the world will ever be free. We said from the very beginning that the American capitalist system seeks to demobilize the people in giving them their history. We gave some examples. What it does to Africans in America is debilitating. It's debilitating. Africans in America, not only do they not know anything about Africa, do not want to know anything about Africa. I told you that the viciousness of the capitalist system was not just in presenting history, but in making the people not want to understand history. The reflections can be seen anywhere. I just give you one example. Everyone in this country, except the indigenous people, is an alien. Everyone except the indigenous people. Don't get confused. I saw Bush the other day talking about these aliens from Haiti. You're the biggest alien in the country. Give me a break. Come on. Everybody's an alien. These aliens come from two continents, Africa and Europe, speaking generally. Now listen to me carefully. Every European who got on a boat coming to America did so voluntarily. Every one of them. Even the indentured servants had a choice to stay in jail in Europe, become indentured servants in America, or not. And they chose. And every European who got on the boat coming to America thought that they were coming to a better, however they defined it, to a better life. All of them. Even so that you can look and see some were fleeing religious persecution. Some were fleeing economic exploitation. Some, we said, were fleeing jails. No African got on a slave ship voluntarily. And anyone who knows anything about the slave ship knows this is one of the worst holocausts that humanity has ever seen. Every African who got on that ship was dragged through one of the worst sea trips that humanity has seen. And today, after all they've done, built America with their sweat, they are still treated like dogs, shot in the street. Police whoop them and put it on television. Nobody does nothing about it. So if you just look now, let me tell you something, I know that all people are equal. I know that. Nobody will confuse me here. So if you look at equality, it seems to me that those people who voluntarily left their home and found a better life in America, however they defined it, should be happy and not even think too much about where they came from. And those people who were dragged out from their homes, went through hell, and are still living in hell, would be the first ones to be looking back at their homes. This seems only normal and logical to us. Yet it's complete reverse. You ask someone of European abstraction in America, where did your grandparents come from? Oh, they came from Poland, and next summer I'm going back to the village where my grandfather came from. Where did your grandmother come from? Well, my grandmother came from Finland, and I've been there, and we have family there. You ask an African born in America, where did your grandmother come from? Mississippi. And where did your great-grandmother come from? I think Mississippi, too. And what about your great-great-grandmother? You don't know? I know. Yes, I know. Because Mother Africa is so strong that when she puts her stamp on you, 400 years of cold water, natanola, and trying her hair will never disguise you. No way. No way. It is evident that the Africans in America come from Africa. It is more evident than for any other alien group in the country. And they're the only ones who don't know where they come from. It's obviously they don't know where they come from, because once you know where you come from, you want to find out everything about where you come from. And they don't even want to find out where they come from.